Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. On today's episode of me talking about 7 things, I'm going to be going over my version of a trailer breakdown for Last One Standing Season 3. Before I continue, there are some links in the description below. Please check those out if you have not already. Also, please do not send hate to any of these survivalists. Support your favorites. And these aren't necessarily spoilers, but I may get a few of my predictions or observations correct. So if you don't want to potentially be spoiled on who's going home first or who might make it pretty far, then you can just mute the video and just let it play through so I can get the view count. Please and thank you. Now, the new season starts on May 18th, which is great, and we have 14 new survivalists. Hooray! We have Trish, Jermaine, Cheeny, Patrick, Kayla H, Laura, Max, Kai, Matt, Trent, Darren, Kayla C, Jamie, and Suzanne are the 14 survivalists revealed to be on Last One Standing Season 3. Of these 14, there were 6 who are returning from previous seasons. Cheeny and Matt were on Season 1, and Trish, Patrick, Kai, and Darren were on Season 2. All in all, a good cast. I'm not really emotionally invested in anybody, so I would be pretty okay with anyone winning. And just going through each survivalist, Trish is very controversial and will get people talking, and she had a good strategy. It was just the figure 4 trap took her out, and she also had a broken finger during her challenge. And again, please do not send hate to any of these survivalists. Support your favorites. Jermaine hasn't been seen since XL Season 9, which was the Frozen one, and he may have the least amount of days, but don't count him out just yet. Cheeny is back from Season 1, and although you may think you know why she tapped Season 1, it turns out that she was mentally just fully not there because her sister was about to give birth for the first time, and that was the main reason why she tapped, but they didn't show it during the actual show. They showed it on a clip via social media, so I thought that was a little bit unfair, but I think Cheeny does really, really well, and I can't wait to see her take on this challenge. Patrick is also controversial. Again, please do not send hate, and he did have the largest PSR jump from his season, and he did make it to top 4 to 6. So I think that he'll make it pretty far this time. And if it's a fire making challenge for top 6 to go to top 3, then I hope he practiced. Kayla H was the MVP of her XL, and she was able to be by herself for a long period of time and caught a Cayman. So I can't wait to see how she does. Laura is one of the top survivalists of the franchise. So it'll be great to see her take on these challenges, and I think she'll do really, really well. Max is a contender for this challenge. The first survivalist we see in the trailer is Max, so I think he'll play an important role this season. Kai, she was so close last time, and hopefully that doesn't hold her back this time where she just gets in her head too much, but she is one of the top survivalists, and I think she would complete a 60-day easily. And Matt is back as well, and I know he's also controversial because of what happened during Season 1, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he's probably one of the most successful hunters of the franchise, and he's very helpful to others, and he is competitive, and I think he'll also go far. Trent is a little bit of a wild card for me. We spoilers don't really see him that much during the trailer, so I'm very worried about him, but he's really, really nice, and I think that he would be a contender for the Fernando Award, like the nicest guy. He's the everyman, for gosh sakes. Darren, I'm so happy he's back. It was unfortunate that he hurt himself on Season 2, but I think he'll make it far this time, and hopefully he doesn't hurt himself. But we do see someone carried away in a stretcher, and I'm not saying it is him, but it would be very unfortunate if he was medically tapped again. Kayla C is the most successful huntress we've seen. She was able to get a warthog on Season 4 of XL. She unfortunately tapped due to bugs on XL8, but came back for a solo. And so she's one of the top female survivalists of the show. So it'll be great to see her take on these challenges. Jamie is Scottish and has a Scottish accent, and he went through a lot of trials and tribulations during his XL and his solo. He was one of the victims of the bugs from XL8 before they gave everyone bug nets. I think if he had a bug net, he might have made it farther, but he was just in so much pain, and it was so sad to see him leave. And on his solo, he had to endure so much as well, just freezing cold nights, a wave of ants, an encounter with a big cat, and he almost wasn't able to do his solo because he had such a bad reaction to the bugs, but luckily he was able to go into solo. So I think he makes it past the first few eliminations. And then we have Suzanne. She did well her first 2 challenges. She survived 17 days by herself on her first challenge, but after that, it was kind of bad luck after bad luck after bad luck, where she hurt herself on her challenge with Wes. She was too cold on her XL challenge on XL7 and unfortunately had to leave. And then on her solo, it was just too cold and rainy for her, so she had to leave. But hopefully, she can use her analytical background to do well in the challenges. So I went through the trailer and I counted how many times I saw each survivalist in the trailer. And I also listed how many times I saw them really, really well in the trailer, where it was just them and maybe 2 other survivalists in a frame, or where you could spot them very easily. And in the first column, I included how many times I saw them in like group scenes and super scene. And then I had the column of just super scene. And I have them ranked by highest to lowest PSR. And I know there are 2 sets of 3 that have the same PSR, but I use the number of challenges as the next indicator, or number of days, and that's how I ranked everybody. And going off of Last One Standing Season 2, you can see that the higher PSR you have, the more likely you are to win. And Kai and Dan had the top 2 PSRs, and they made it to the top 3, and Dan ended up winning. And we do see some big jumps and placements where Patrick had a 7.9 PSR and was 4th from last, but he ended up getting 4th to 6th. So PSRs don't necessarily indicate how well someone may do in the challenge. And we shall see if there will be a repeat where Matt, Kai, and Laura have the highest PSRs of season 3, so it's most likely they will win. And here we have the ranking of the survivalists based on the number of times I spotted them in the trailer. I was scrolling through and pausing and trying to see if this is the survivalist in the group shot. And I think these numbers are pretty accurate, maybe 1 or 2 off on a few. And then the very scene moments are the ones where it's just that one survivalist in frame, or there are 2 others, but you can clearly see them in that frame. And so I think that Matt, Patrick, Darren, and Max have a good chance of making it pretty far. And unfortunately, Kayla H, Kayla C, Suzanne, and Trent might be amongst the first to go home. But I also have the chart I made for season 2 of Last One Standing that showed how many times each survivalist was seen or very seen in the trailer. And Patrick had the most time spotted in the season 2 trailer, but he did not win. And we see Gary kind of near the bottom, but Gary ended up making it to the top 4 to 6th. So just because someone may have a lot of moments in the trailer doesn't mean they make it far, and just because they don't have as many moments doesn't mean they'll be the first ones eliminated. But I'm just trying to do my research and just try to see who I'm thinking may make it to the end or make it pretty far. And I think that Matt, Patrick, Darren, and Max do have a good chance of making it pretty far, while Kayla H, Kayla C, Suzanne, and Trent might be amongst the first ones to go home. But again, this could be very wrong and is just going off of deductive reasoning and me trying to make sense of things in my own research. Again, I don't know anything that happens during the season. Now on to some observations and predictions that I made after watching the trailer several times and reading an article online. Now, the first 2 points are operating under the assumption that they're going to do a repeat of what they did on season 2, where on day 1 there's going to be a double elimination. 1 man is going home, 1 woman's going home, and then the remaining 12 will be split into trios and then compete in some challenges. And if there is a double elimination day 1, I think that Trent and Kayla H are unfortunately going home. I didn't really see them in any group shots, and they're not really seen that much during the trailer. There's a point where Kayla H is walking with Darren, but that could just be them walking up to their first challenge. And we see Trish and Kayla C sitting next to each other, so they may be partnered up with one other person after completing the day 1 challenge and not going home in the double elimination, but we'll see what happens. And then in the article talking about Last One Standing season 3, there's talk of a surprise elimination, and I think that may be Max, Kai, or Laura, and to a lesser extent Darren or Matt, because Darren was already surprisingly med tap and Matt already was eliminated in the top 7 of season 1. So I don't know if he'd be super surprising if he went home before top 6, but I think it'd be very surprising if Laura, Kai, or Max went home before top 6. And I think Patrick's going to get a lot of screen time like season 2, because we see him a lot during the trailer and he's yelling and he's saying stuff at the camera and he's talking about how he's the most dangerous, venomous snake out there. And then also one of the biggest mysteries of season 3 is who's getting carried out by the crew. All I know is that it looks like they have a bandage wrapped around their right arm, and it also looks like their face is being blurred out. Just looking at the arm position, it doesn't make sense to me, but it looks like their face is being censored, so I have no idea. And I don't really want to make any assumptions on who it is. Now, I made a few mistakes on my observation number 6, but I think the top 7 will be Matt, Kai, Laura, Cheeny, Max, Darren, and Patrick. And Kai or Laura most likely going to be the surprise eliminee, but I think that Matt, Kai, Laura, or Max will be the winner of the season. I meant to flip Cheeny and Max's name. And then I think the elimination order for the first 6 to go home are Trent, Kayla H, Kayla C, Jermaine, Suzanne, and Jamie. And then I think Trish and the surprise eliminee will be not far after. I think that since Max got the first Survivalist appearance in the trailer where he's saying Australia, I think that he's going to have an integral part to the season. There's also a part in the trailer we see Matt, Max, Patrick, Darren, and Cheeny with bows and arrows, and I think it's later on in the season because you see Darren and Patrick have a lot of beard growth, so I think that it happens near the end, which is why I think those 5 make it pretty far. And during the trailer, we see Laura carrying a giant branch that's on fire, so that might be the top 6 reward challenge, or that might be a challenge that's happening near the end of the season, so I think she makes it pretty far, unless this is pretty early on, and she might be the surprise eliminee, but who knows. But those are some observations and assumptions that I made after watching the trailer so many times. And here I'm going to show some photos from the trailer and just talk over them. Here we have the survivalist who's being taken away by the crew members. It looks like they have a bandage over their right arm, and it almost seems as though their face is being blurred. I'm not for sure. I don't want to make assumptions about anything, but I think that might be their face. And then in the trailer, we see Max, Darren, Patrick, Matt, and Cheeny fire bow and arrows, and then a few of them jump off a cliff. And it looks like some are looking under the water, so maybe they have to fire bow and arrow, they have to hit a target, they have to jump off a cliff at some point. I don't know if this is how the challenge goes sequentially, but maybe those 5 have to hit a target, they have to go somewhere and then jump off a cliff, look for something in the water. Maybe they're looking for a fire starter in the water, and then they have tripods and they have to light a fire underneath it, and maybe whoever lights the fire and sets the tripod on fire either wins or is able to go into the next step. And as I said previously, we don't see Trent or Kayla H that often during the trailer. We do see a lot of Patrick, Darren, and Max. And then Jamie has a few good moments in the trailer where he's saying he's ready or something like that. And then he has a fish. So I don't know if the fish is for a challenge or if he just catches a fish. But if it's for a challenge, good for him, because it seems as though he's not going to be going home. We don't see Laura or Kai that much during the trailers, so that leads me to believe one of them may be one of the surprise eliminees. But in the season 2 trailer for Last One Standing, we don't see Gary that often, and he makes it a top 4 to 6, and he also got an Impala, so this could be some sort of misdirect. But unfortunately, I think that Jermaine, Kayla H, Kayla C, Suzanne, Trent, and Jamie will be the first 6 eliminated. I don't know exactly what the elimination order will be, but it'll be interesting to find out. And I'm interested to see how well Darren will do, because we do see him a lot throughout, and he's doing his cheer, and hopefully he doesn't need to be medically tapped again. I know the first time that happened, that was so sad because he was doing so well. And I wonder if Patrick, Kai, and Darren had to do the elimination challenge where the last placing of the 3 and the challenge goes home. I wonder who would have gone home instead had Darren been fit to continue and he didn't hurt himself previously. Would Kai or Patrick have gone home in top 9, or would Darren have gone home anyway? I don't know. But if Patrick does make it to top 4 to 6 and they do the fire starting challenge with the bow drill, hopefully Patrick has practiced his fire starting. If he does make it to top 6, and that is the challenge you need to complete to progress. But we shall see. And with that, that is the end of the video. I'm not emotionally invested in any of these survivalists, so whoever wins I'll be happy with, unless maybe the edit sways me in another direction. But I think Kai, Laura, and Matt have the highest probability of winning or being the surprise eliminee, but who knows? Thank you all so much for listening. Please like, comment nice things, and subscribe, and click the next video if it's fun. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye!